Mr. Sessions.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask unanimous consent that because this is a hearing specifically about Texas, I'd like to ask unanimous consent to have Governor Greg Abbott's order about that special session entered into the record.
Without any objection at all. Thank
you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, the work of the state of Texas is very important, and the people of the state of Texas have duly qualified and elected individuals who would represent them. It has become a common cited effort that people, when they know they do not have the votes, to leave, to walk out, to not participate. And I don't know where all this came about, but I know that here in Washington, D.C., we do not have the votes to win any single vote, so to speak. None. But Republicans don't walk out. We don't go and accuse people of things just because we are losing. And I would suggest to you that what is happening today in Texas is the rights of all Texans are being withheld because members of the Democratic Party, who are members of the state House, choose not to be a part of it. So the question is, what is some of this that's being withheld? Well, one of them is the election integrity bill. We're going to talk about that election integrity bill in detail. And I think that anyone that listening to this will recognize that the strength of any majority or member of that body to bring forth a bill that they believe would be important is important. Whether it's complete or not, that process would involve each of the members who would be here to offer amendments to that to change it. But members are still allowed to represent their particular constituents with what they do. Second, border security. As a result of President Biden's decision on January 20th to literally tell federal law enforcement officers that they will not enforce the laws, the border laws, the immigration laws, and the common sense laws of this country, has placed a tremendous burden, and it is an emergency in Texas. Over 1 million illegal immigrants have entered the United States. Record numbers of drugs are coming in the United States. And essentially, these federal officers that were there to protect the United States of America, not just our sovereignty, but to protect people who might live in my hometown of Waco, Texas, from drug cartels that are sending record levels of fentanyl, cocaine, and meth to our American cities and homes. Third, family violence education is now not moving forward in Texas. This is based upon their ability to provide appropriate and more education to middle and high school students about dating violence, domestic violence, and child abuse, to recognize that what is happening in this country is we have a crisis in our homes. One could say because of COVID, I say because of the changing times. And we need to use our schools to educate our students about these circumstances. Number three, youth sports. There is going to be a bill that is presented that disallows a student from competing in university interscholastic league athletic competitions designed for students of the opposite sex. I believe it's fair to have the debate and a vote and to see the different ideas that come forth about that opportunity where people of one sex would compete against another person of that sex that I believe is unfair to women. I think it's an anti-women circumstance that we're involved in. I had children. I competed when I was in high school, and it's unfair to have a 17-year-old boy compete against a 17-year-old girl in most sports. 13th check. This is legislation that the House has before it to give teachers a 13th check during the year, allowing teachers a chance to have not only more supplemental payments and benefits, but it's to allow them at a time when more money is available in the teacher retirement system, but it requires the legislature to act. Next, property tax relief. The proposal is to allow the legislature to provide appropriations from general fund to give property tax relief to all Texans. These are important issues that need to be done, the business of the people of the state of Texas. And today, in essence, we're allowing and coddling people who should be at work in the state of Texas, their constitutional duties, and yet we're treating them as hometown heroes in Washington, D.C. I believe that they need to have their constitutional duties performed and be back home. Now, Mr. Chairman, Texas has been a pioneer in passing early voting laws that began in 1988 in Texas. But I would say to you that Texas has used every 2 years for the legislature to be able to strengthen these laws and to provide feedback and to allow Texans the opportunity to vote. I would note that Texas allows 17 days more of early voting than Delaware, which is where our president is from. Texas allows each Texan 17 days more than the state of Delaware. These bills that will be talked about today keep the ability for disabled or elderly persons to vote curbside. That's important to me. I have a disabled son. Perhaps my son may or may not want to go inside. He can stay outside, and it allows that. We need to also remember that these discussions are discussions open to amendment. These bills would make sure that voters have a right to cure their absentee ballots of mistakes. And they're given in these bills up to 6 days after the election to be able to cure a mistake if you had one. This is a far cry from Democrats' claim that the vote is being suppressed. It actually allows them an opportunity to figure out if they had done something wrong. That is common in both the Senate and the House bills. Transparency is necessary in elections, and this bill guarantees elections observers free from any political persuasion. We heard our chairman today lament that partisan poll workers would be discouraged. Let me repeat. He believes, evidently, that partisan poll workers should be involved in that process. We disagree in Texas. We think anyone that comes to vote should be free of partisan poll workers engaged in an election site. We believe that Texas Democrats understand these bills because many of the people and several of the people that are here today sought amendments to those amendments, and they were accepted in the bills and the processes that have gone on. One member has been a member of the legislature for a number of years and no doubt knows that the laws of Texas that are updated every 2 years are done in the best interest of all Texans. But rather than continuing the debate, they broke quorum and they're trying to paralyze the progress that would be made on behalf of all Texans. Mr. Chairman, I hope today that the testimony that we are going to offer today from a State Representative Clarity, in particular, will allow those elected representatives who are Republicans in Texas a chance to set the record straight about not only what is in these bills, but the need to make sure that Texas works together and passes these laws for the benefit of all Texans. I yield back my time.
Mr. Sessions, thank you so